Welcome to The Cool Down, a Bailiwick Express podcast where we meet the people making the sports headlines. More active, more often is a philosophy that has states backing, but is it doing all it can to make that happen? With a background of new publicly funded sports facilities being put on the back burner and funding pressures on a programme that broadens opportunities, I talked to the Guernsey Sports Commission Director of Communications, Nicky Will, about recommendations it made for improvements in 2021 that are still outstanding and what the future could hold for Beau Sejour. We begin by discussing the review of sports facilities that prompted it calling for change.
So this was actually funded as part of the first year of Activate. So we were commissioned to review all facilities, not just state-owned, and actually sort of put together a proper spreadsheet document with every sports facility, size, what the facility was, what it offered, whether there were toilets, changing rooms, the size of the pitch, the size of the runoff. So you really had a comprehensive view of what there was in Guernsey. So we put all of that together, and that I think that's probably as comprehensive as it gets with regards to sports facilities. Then out of that, we looked at some actions that we felt would be really important to move forward, and I think of those three actions or three recommendations that we took forward to the committee for actioning are still live. So one of which was about schools being able to access states-owned sports facilities during the day, so sort of curriculum time, let's say 9 till 4, for free. Because you still have the situation currently that schools, if they want to hire Foots Lane, let's say, to run an athletics competition, have to pay for it. Schools' budgets are very squeezed, and so, I think that's one of the challenges that remains ongoing. So we did take that to the committee, and it was agreed that that would be looked at, but as far as we're aware, no further progress has been made on that.
And what impact is that having on the schools at the moment?
I think, again, I don't want to really speak for the schools, but we know that PE budgets have been squeezed. We know that because our funding for Activate finished midway through last year, particularly for where we were supporting secondary school pupils. So we were we were facilitating broadening the PE curriculum for secondary school pupils by taking them off-site. So being able to go and experience things like paddle tennis, stand-up paddleboarding, climbing. So really broadening their PE experience. But of course, we were paying to hire the facilities so that the young people could use them. So unfortunately, that part of the budget is still part of Activate. We're hoping to have some good news about Activate in the next few days, she says. But at the moment, that's kind of on hold. So I think probably schools will tell you right now, secondary schools will tell you right now, is that the PE curriculum they're still delivering, but the breadth of it has contracted quite a bit. If they are looking to hire any other facilities outside of that, it's proving very challenging.
And in terms of education's response, obviously they said they'd take it away and look at it, but do you know what the argument is for charging at the moment? Is there? No. And I think that is one of our sort of big frustrations, really. We have a really great relationship with Beau Sejour. They are, if we're going to hold a community event, they're really supportive and really helpful. That's great. But I would say things like, if you look at our On Your Marks holiday programme that we run every school holiday, year round, apart from Christmas, and over the last 3 years, that has grown. Whereas, maybe 5 years ago, we probably had 40 kids. The youngest ones we would only have for 1 hour. Now we have 100 kids. They're all staying for 3 hours. We've kept our charges for that, our fees for that as low as possible. So £5 for the morning is just going up to £7.50 for the morning. And it's so popular it sells out within 24 hours. We have a social investment fund grant for that to help us manage the costs. But that grant is for last year was around £37,000, 12.5 of which goes back to the states on facilities hire. So
when we are doing our bit to deliver more children, more active, more often, all parts of the overarching objectives of Active 8, but we're having to continue to pay facilities hire charges. We do get a 50% discount, which is, again, great, but, we feel we're really providing an opportunity that's particularly targeted at those children who, for whatever reason, be it cost, be it transport, be it, just difficult family situations, we target those children to come to On Your Marks. We don't say no to anyone. We've put on minibuses from the Guernsey estate, from St Martin's, to bring those kids to On Your Marks. We run our own minibus to pick up some kids who wouldn't normally be able to access it. So, we're really trying here to target those children, but the costs of us hiring the school facility, because we hire up at St Sampson's High, is pretty costly.
I mean, again, it's a barrier that's being put in the way that doesn't necessarily.
If that barrier didn't exist, and we didn't have to pay the facilities hire charges, we would break even on that now. Whereas at the moment, even with the income that we get from charging the children the £5 a morning, the income we get thanks to SIF, our costs for delivering it still, we've got to find some money from somewhere else to be able to continue to deliver it. If those facility hire charges weren't there, we'd probably break even.
And so you mentioned there were 3 parts of that review.
Yep.
So that was part 1, part 2?
Yeah, part 2 was about a centralised booking system, which again is still not there. We believe that some progress has been made, but it's still 2 different places to hire states sports facilities. So you have the Beau Sejour, and then you have education. So,
and that would all be about the ease of hiring, the rationalising.
Yeah, and I think just the tech.
Yeah.
But again, that's squarely in ESE's gift. And then the final part of it was the Les Osway campus and coming up with a new an appropriate operating model, to ensure that what they were going to build down there was appropriate for community use, and outside of the hours that it was going to be used by the Institute and Post 16, it could be available for the community. So that is particularly with regard to sports like netball, volleyball and basketball, who hire as much as they can in terms of the sports facilities here, but are always looking for more court space.
So we've seen today the amendment coming in on the Osway campus. The indications there is like potentially a new direction of travel, looking at Beau Sejour as well as part of the answer. Has the Sports Commission got a view on that at the moment?
We haven't discussed it as a team yet, and we only found out when everybody else found out. I would say that probably number one, we're disappointed that the sports facilities as originally planned don't look like they're currently going to be delivered. We understand the reasons behind that, of course we do. I think what they're talking with regards to Beau Sejour was very much about the sort of curriculum delivery. So, the post-16 students having access to some kind of sporting experiences as part of their curriculum or their enrichment programme. Great, yeah, I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine there is space and capacity at Beau Sejour for that. I guess what will be interesting will be any charging model that goes around that. I think our drive, though, is still, we know that there is still that need for those 3 sports in particular to have an appropriate indoor space. And currently, with Beau Sejour facilities as they stand, it's not going to deliver what's required.
And I think even looking at that amendment, even if anything happens, it would be
quite a long way down.
It's down into the next stage, isn't it? And even further beyond that once you start looking at the capital programme. What's the ideal scenario?
I think we've always said as the Sports Commission, what is needed is another sports hall space. Whether that could be here, I mean, it makes sense. If you look back to the Education Development Plan, it was going to be at the MAR. Various sort of iterations of it. We still we still believe there is still that need for that appropriately sized, and I think that's the really key message here. If they build something at Les Osway and they build it too small and it's not appropriate for community use by basketball, netball and volleyball, then we would question the value for money of that. So, there is still a need, absolutely, for that indoor sports hall space of the appropriate size.
And could Beau Sejour provide an answer?
I don't see why not. Not within its current facility. There would need to be something somewhere it makes sense for it to be up here, that could be built. It could be done in a public-private partnership. We're always exploring ways of that. Let's not, forget that, private investors have produced some really fantastic sports facilities here in Guernsey. You just have to go down to the Aztec Centre and places like that to see that massive investment. And those places are fantastic. They're busy, so it could be possible to have something here, and we would want to be involved in any discussion around that to ensure, again, it's about having it the appropriate size. And we're not talking something where, you can have 400 people watching a basketball match, 50 people watching a basketball match is great, but it's about thinking about, what that space is, what it's there to do, how it's going to work, does it have the appropriate runoffs. You've got the under-19 netballers playing in the Southern League or whichever league it is they're playing in. When they come here, they have to take the whole of the Sir John Loveridge Hall to have the appropriate runoffs and for people to be able to watch. Again, I think if we had a indoor facility that was the appropriate size, maybe with some bleacher seating, actually that would do it.
And we're talking here on the back of the Sports Commission's 2023 annual report coming out. Are there any highlights in that you particularly liked?
Gosh, so many highlights. I think 2023 was a fantastic year for sport in Guernsey. I mean, the Island Games, wow, what an amazing event. Really bringing the community together, really showing what sport can do in terms of bringing the community together. And it's almost like we want to make sure that excitement, that commitment keeps going, that there is a legacy from the Games. There were some improvements in facilities in the run-up to the Games. We need to make sure that those facilities are still appropriate and being looked after properly and all that. I think in terms of other highlights for the Sports Commission, we have the 10th Youth Games. Again, thanks to Specsavers who have continued to support that. We get no money from the States for that. We get a bill for the sports facilities. But something like that where you've got 700 kids trying something new, having such a great time, making new friends, that's got to be a highlight. Our events in general are always a highlight. Sport in the library, Sporting Achievement Awards last week, our Family Fun Day, all of those things. I think, I know there's a lot of work in getting them up and running, but when you see so many people having a great time and enjoying sport, that's fantastic. Sports vouchers is another scheme that is funded through Activate, and regardless of whether we get our funding for Activate, it's so important we will find the money to be able to continue with it. But I think it's last year we did around 145 sports vouchers, and those are for children and young people in education who for whatever reason might not be able to afford their football fees or subs or joining the boxing club or gymnastics. And we work with a lot of other agencies, so school nurses, social workers, family support services, to identify children, who would benefit from a sports voucher. And as I say, 145 given out last year, and that's 145 kids who perhaps wouldn't be doing sport. So I think, again, that's a real fantastic success story of something that came out of Activate.
And in general terms, why is sport important for the island?
Gosh, I think there's a wealth of evidence globally that shows you the value of sport in terms of mental health, physical health and well-being. I think if you invest in sport, the return on investment, Sport England would say for every £1 you invest, you get nearly £4 back. Just in terms of, the long-term health of the population. And it's not necessarily playing sport. We've had a big focus on governance and safeguarding in sport over the last few years. We'll continue to have that focus, but there's opportunities to get involved at board level in sports, coaching, volunteering, marshalling, and just being made to feel like part of an organisation and not sitting at home not doing something. So I think that there is just that wealth of evidence that being active and playing sport is just good in so many ways.
That was the cool down. Thanks again for listening. Please like and subscribe for more. You can find all our sports news on gsy.bailiwickexpress.com and on all our social channels. Sign up to our daily email to keep up to date on all the work the Express team does.